I think we met in '76.
Yeah.
Because the Reno convention was January '77. It was the first tattoo convention that any of us had been to. There had only been one before that, this little thing in Houston in '76, and then these people put on this big shindig in Reno, and a bunch of us showed up, and Good Time Charlie Cartwright and Jack Rudy were at that. And we met them, and we said, well, these guys are doing this single needle tattooing, this black and gray jailhouse stuff in East LA. And I think I'd already put that flaming demon head on your chest, and we talked about doing some other stuff, and then we got in a car and we said, let's go see those guys in East LA. That was right after the convention. And I'd never been to East LA. We went out to Whittier Boulevard and we both got tattooed. I got a skull on my shoulder from Charlie, and you got a ribbon or something?
I was really interested in learning how to do Japanese style work, which I started out doing, you know, as much as I could. And I said, well, when I come up and work for Ed, I'll really learn how to do this stuff, you know, because he's the master at it, you know. And of course, after about 6 months, 6 or 8 months, we opened Tattoo City, and we went all off into the one needle, single needle, all black type of stuff, you know. I was like, well, let's just stop this, and now we're going to learn. And I took to that stuff real easy, you know what I mean? I could do that pretty much right off the bat, you know.
You made up that logo that the Stray Cats ended up using with that cat with a rockabilly quiff, because you were in the musical scene. You met Pam like at the Mud Club and all that scene, right? All that CBGBs and that stuff, and all the music, all the punk thing was going on in New York, and then all this retro, you know, Levi and the Rockettes, that retro rockabilly stuff, and it was way before the Japanese picked up on it. It was way before, it was 20 years before all these people I saw yesterday at this car thing with the, you know, the hairdos and the wannabe 1955 tattoos. You know, none of that was happening. And man, you were doing really power hitter stuff that was American imagery, because you always had a tremendous strength with that, and some Japanese stuff, but you were flavoring all of it with a thing that, again, I think it was a new thing, because it was restating some of the old stuff, but with a more pop kind of a real, I don't know how to describe it, but it was just a different look. Nobody had been doing that look, and then people ate it up there. I mean, you were busy in New York when you had it was Spotlight there, wasn't it? You called it Spotlight Tattoo.
Yeah, that was the first one. You know, everybody likes what they can't do, you know, and that's what I admire most about your stuff, is that it is so uncontrived, and, you know, and it is so spontaneous, and it works, you know. See, that's what I can't say. I can't make that stuff. I can't just pick up and make it work. It's just every time I try to do that, it doesn't look right, you know, it doesn't work. It's not what I'm trying to say, so I gotta, you know, carefully contrive a lot of this, most of what I do, you know, which is pretty much the way I have to go about it, you know. So I'm a victim of my own shortcomings, you know. But they say actually genius can come out of severe limitations, you know. at some point, you know. I mean, I compare myself to the Ramones or other 3-chord bands, you know what I mean. That actual genius can come out of severe limitations, and you know, maybe I hit on it once in a while.
Most artists that I admire that are honest about what they're doing and really grappling with this stuff, it's that crazy thing that you get something in your head and you know this thing could work, but you don't know exactly how it's going to work. You don't know how to hit it. I mean, I love that Franz Klein story about painting was like having your hands stuck in a mattress, you know. It's like, you're just kind of like groping around on this stuff, and you can try, you know, you try all the different tricks. The fact that it doesn't fit in any easy category is it makes people that are only comfortable with categorizing things, whether this is a folk art or this is a fine art or this is a commercial art, well, that thing, the particular tattoo thing and the particular sensibility that we're operating out of, that we joined ourselves into, although we came into tattooing with a sensibility of other kinds of art, it's not easy to be categorized. I had these great hopes for tattooing when I finally found out about the when this outsider art thing happened in the early 90s. And by then I'd been painting for a few years. You know, I'd moved to Hawaii, I had time to paint. And I was like, we started going to Chicago, and I saw oh, this outsider art is a happening thing. Great, we can maybe get in under that deal of, the so-called unschooled things. But Dan Higgs hit it right on the head. He said, well, we, start messing with some of these galleries, and then they look at this, and then they get nervous when they find out that we can actually read and write, or that maybe we've got other things. He said, they're looking for retarded hillbillies, He said, that's what they want us to be. They don't, they don't like the fact that we have extremely subtle, complex, aesthetics and knowledge and capability behind us,
I'm painting these pictures basically because I want to paint them. I'm painting them for me. I saw a lot of them, mostly the tattoo artists, out the door. And, the thing about you and me is that I do tattoos for a living. I'm still in the shop every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's how I make a living. And like when I paint these things, they're almost, just labors of love, pretty much. I don't care if I sell them or I don't. I just want them to. I'm just painting them to evolve myself, to teach myself, how to do this stuff. And
The thing that I think is important that we're both dealing with in our own ways are the parts that you can't at all transmit, that you can't put down in no matter how many words you took to describe, well, and the painting's got, and the snakes, it's kind of coming in this luminous, center thing, and it's got this shading from the corners. It's all that stuff that I'm super interested in, that are the things that are nonverbal. That's the reason we're making pictures that are conveyed, that the paint's doing, that the medium's doing, that we're making it do, or that it's making us do, that's beyond anybody else. Because these guys can get all the reference books they want, or these women or whoever. If they get all the reference books for all the designs, whether it's from 1952 Sailortown tattooing or every esoteric Buddhist image in the Asian world, I don't care if they've got that, if they can't bring to it the kind of sensibility and the kind of mystery that we're able to call up. And part of why we're able to call it up is our age, and we've been making images all these years, and just who we are innately. Because when I first met you, man, you were the first guy I met in tattooing that could be, I thought, well, I opened this private shop in San Francisco, and I'm never going to be able to get anybody to work with me that can figure out what I'm trying to do with this. And then, we met, and I'm like, came down to LA and saw your stuff, and I saw some of that raw stuff that you did with your kid, that, kids' drawings, that you were into stuff that was totally off the wall, totally, pure art, like raw, screaming, earthquake material. And I thought, I never met a tattooer that could draw and knew about tattooing and also understood this end of art, this completely wildcat zone. And that's the kinds of things that very, very few people can relate to, and that very few people understand about all this, And I think some of the vibes that you get going in your paintings, no matter how painstakingly they're created, they're transmitting some of that stuff. They're transmitting some of that velocity of really, really break it out, kick out the jams kind of stuff,
Each one of these images is so powerful that, that's what I've tried to do, is present this type of imagery, is, take it a little bit further with something that I can't do with tattooing. And that's basically pretty much what all I've been trying to do with it, and explain spiritual forces through tangible imagery, spiritual underlying forces that you can't really draw a picture of, but you can put stuff together that almost give you that feeling, sex and death and spirituality and sexual urges and the accommodation of desire.
I like to make stuff that when people see it, it hits them really strong, and they don't know how they're being hit, that they're going, whoa, and that makes them want to come back to it. They can't figure it out. It's what I dislike about, or am totally disinterested in a hell of a lot of art from every era, and particularly contemporary art, that it doesn't, it's like a one-trick pony. You see it and you go, all right, well, I get it, and there's nothing more there. But if there's some mystery to it, and what we have, both of us, is decades of drawing and looking at stuff and really studying things hard, and we both have extremely sophisticated senses of drawing and design elements through all the tattoo work and then our interest in art. The other thing we share is that not too many people in tattooing, well, in the old days nobody had, now a few of them do, is we had exposure to art and we had some sensibility about art. I mean real art, not just, you know, the blue chip hitters that are on the shelves, but the real stuff, the real hardcore frightening stuff, you know? And bringing that into it, combining it with this kind of really, really disciplined thing that you get from tattooing and the kind of stuff that we like in Asian art, you know, that's this codified, complicated sense of composition and the symbols, you know, mixing all that stuff up. It's a new field. That's the whole thing. You are doing something that nobody's ever done, because that's why I think a lot of people have trouble looking at this. They don't know how to, you know, some of the tattoo community looks at it and they recognize the imagery, or some of it, you know, and some of the Asian guys can look at it and recognize some of the imagery, but people, they've never seen it before. They don't know how to look at it, you know, and it throws a lot of people off.
That's a phenomenon that I find very interesting, that all of a sudden, just a lot of tattoo artists started doing this, you know? It's like the birth of a whole new art movement.
That's true. We talked earlier a little bit about the idea of, you know, showing art, about taking your art, well, we make this stuff for ourselves, and the difficulties of putting it out, then okay, it's great to have it, our living room full of it, or our studio or whatever, and show it to 3 or 4 friends, but then you start thinking, geez, we make this stuff, we put our life's blood and sweat into it. It's kind of nice to get it out in front of a wider range of people and maybe expose it to people that wouldn't ordinarily see it and get some feedback, because that, you know, but it's rough, because then you're putting yourself out there and you're putting yourself in that weird marketplace thing and being judged in those respects. You know, it's a complicated deal. That's why I think this show's going to be good, because it's, look, at our stuff is very different, but it's the same. You know, we're brothers in this thing, and we crawl up out of the same mud or whatever, and it's going to be stuff that really is a 1-2 punch, you know.